Let's see if the help can take a punch better than she cleans these floors. Julian Croft's voice, slick and venomous, slithers through the sterile air of the gymnasium. The words are a physical blow, landing with a sickening crack across Amelia Rojas's reality as she freezes mid-mop stroke. The cloying, expensive cologne of his entourage, a miasma of entitlement and arrogance, collides with the acrid fumes of industrial bleach, creating a nauseating clash of worlds that burns her nostrils and churns her stomach. It's the smell of her life, the scent of hard, invisible labor mixing with the fragrance of a world she can only ever service, never join. Olympus Athletics in Beverly Hills gleams under the cold, unforgiving glare of custom LED lighting. It's all polished chrome, supple Italian leather, and smoked glass. The kind of place where a single-year membership costs more than the annual rent on her East LA apartment. At this ungodly late hour, the cavernous gym should be silent, a steel and leather tomb occupied only by Amelia. Her lean, deceptively strong frame is bent over a mop as she works the immaculate white marble floor in slow, methodical, circular strokes, erasing the footprints of the privileged few who sweated here hours ago. Amelia's knuckles, already calloused from a lifetime of hard work, turn bone white as she tightens her grip on the mop handle, the wood groaning in protest. She forces herself not to react, to become a part of the background, a shadow among shadows. That was the first rule of survival. Her drab, gray custodial uniform, 2 sizes too big, hangs loose on her athletic frame, a deliberate, shapeless camouflage designed to hide the tightly coiled definition of muscle that ripples beneath the cheap fabric. Her gaze flits involuntarily to the wall of champions, an entire gallery of professionally shot, oversized photographs of fighters. They are all men, all sculpted and preening, and all wearing the same smug, insufferable expression of absolute entitlement. The sharp, arrogant click of $1,000 dress shoes against the pristine marble floor breaks the tomb-like silence as Julian Croft continues his grand tour with a small entourage of equally vapid, wealthy men. Their booming laughter echoes through the vast, empty space, the sound of men who believe they own the world, because in this small, gleaming corner of it, Julian most certainly does. "We won't be long," he adds with a dismissive wave in her general direction, his tone suggesting she is less a person and more another piece of gym equipment to be ignored. "Just showing the boys around before their membership checks clear. Got to see the merchandise, eh?" More raucous laughter follows. Amelia just nods, keeping her eyes fixed on the floor, on the steady, rhythmic movement of her mop. She is a machine. She is invisible. She is nothing. One of the men, Marcus the Mauler Thorne, the gym's reigning star fighter, and Julian's prize racehorse, breaks away from the group. He saunters toward the main ring, shadowboxing with a lazy, theatrical arrogance, his movements designed to be seen. "So that's your champion? The one with the big pay-per-view fight next month?" one of the potential investors asks, his voice laced with a sliver of skepticism as he eyes Marcus's performative display. "Undefeated in his last 12 bouts. I've been training him myself for years," Julian replies, puffing out his chest. "The man is a machine, a genuine killer." The investor's skeptical look remains. He's seen flashy fighters before. They often have jaws made of glass. A flicker of something, not worry, but perhaps annoyance, tightens Julian's perfectly manicured jaw. He needs this investment. Whispers of Olympus's financial troubles have started to circulate. "Marcus could take down anyone in Los Angeles with his eyes closed. I guarantee it." Marcus throws a few more lazy, hissing punches into the air, a peacock displaying his feathers. His bored gaze drifts across the gym and lands on Amelia, who has methodically moved to mopping another section, deliberately keeping her back to them, maximizing the distance. He sees not a person, but an object, a prop for his little show. "Anyone?" Marcus smirks, his eyes glinting with a mean-spirited idea. "Even the cleaning lady." Julian follows Marcus's gaze, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face as he sees Amelia. Something cold and calculating flashes in his eyes. This was an opportunity. "Hey, you, the cleaner! Come here a second," he calls out loudly, his voice booming with authority. He doesn't even use her name. He probably doesn't know it. Amelia's spine stiffens into a rod of iron. For a beat, she doesn't move. Then, the grim reality of her situation, her abuela's mounting medical bills, the rent that was already a week late, forces her legs to obey. She turns and approaches the group, clutching her mop like a quarterstaff, her only shield against their condescending stares. "Sir," she says, her voice quiet but steady. "These gentlemen are potential investors in Marcus's career," Julian says, his smile never once reaching his cold, reptilian eyes. "They need a little demonstration. Something memorable." He pauses for dramatic effect. "How about you hop in the ring with him? Give Marcus someone to show off with. A little light sparring. It might be the most valuable thing you do all month." The group of wealthy men chuckles, a low, cruel sound. Their $1,000 phones are already emerging from their pockets, sleek black rectangles ready to record what they assume will be a moment of hilarious, viral-worthy humiliation at her expense. A video they can laugh about later on their yachts. Amelia's face burns with a heat that has nothing to do with physical exertion. The shame is a living thing, crawling up her neck, tightening her throat. Her knuckles are stark white around the worn handle of her mop. "I'm not finished with my shift yet, Mr. Croft," she says, her voice dangerously quiet. "I'm telling you to take a break," Julian counters, his voice losing its fake joviality and hardening into a steel command. "Unless, of course, you're worried about your job. Not many options out there for someone with your qualifications." The threat, naked and brutal, hangs in the air between them. It's not just a job, it's the lifeline that keeps her and Abuela afloat in the churning sea of their debt. Amelia's eyes instinctively flick to the small, smooth obsidian stone wrapped tightly in a worn piece of leather around her wrist. It's partially hidden by the loose sleeve of her uniform, her grandfather's hand wrap, a sacred family treasure, the last piece of him she has left. El martillo, the hammer. "No headgear?" she asks, the question so soft it's almost a whisper. "Won't need it." "I'll go easy on you, sweetheart," Marcus laughs, stepping into the ring and beckoning her with a curl of his finger. "Wouldn't want to damage the help? Who'd mop up after?" The men roar with laughter, but in that instant, something profound shifts deep within Amelia's eyes. The burning humiliation doesn't vanish, but it recedes, replaced by an ice-cold calculation. The wealthy men are already pulling out their wallets, placing casual bets, the odds ludicrously stacked against her. Not one of them, not for a single fleeting moment, considers that the woman in the drab gray uniform might actually know what she is doing. "Your mistake," she whispers under her breath, a vow made to herself and to the memory of the man who gave her the stone. She carefully, almost ceremoniously, sets down her mop, leaning it against the ring apron. Then she walks toward the steps of the ring, her heart thundering against her ribs, not with fear, but with a terrible, righteous fury that has been dormant for far too long. The piercing shriek of Amelia's alarm clock blares at 4:30 a.m., violently jolting her from a fitful, shallow sleep. Her body screams in protest. The phantom ache of yesterday's humiliation at the gym, has settled deep in her muscles, a tightness born of unspent, incandescent rage. The cramped studio apartment in the heart of East LA is cold, the air thin and sharp. She keeps the heat perpetually low, a constant, shivering sacrifice to save a few precious dollars on the electric bill. A neat but menacing stack of bills sits on the tiny kitchen counter, a monument to their struggle. The largest one, from Los Angeles Memorial Hospital, is marked in angry red ink. Final notice. She dresses quietly in the pre-dawn darkness, her movements economical and silent, ingrained habits from years of not wanting to wake her grandmother sleeping in the single, small bedroom. Through the cracked bedroom door, she can hear the labored, rhythmic breathing of Abuela Elena, punctuated by the steady, metronomic hum of the oxygen machine that has become the soundtrack to their lives. The doctor's words echo in her mind, a relentless drumbeat of despair. Her grandmother's condition, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, is worsening. The experimental treatment they recommend, a new therapy with a promising success rate, costs more than Amelia makes in an entire year of back-breaking work. Before leaving, Amelia kneels beside a worn, scarred wooden chest at the foot of her mattress on the floor. Her fingers tremble slightly as she lifts the lid. Inside, beneath neatly folded, threadbare clothes, lies her grandfather's fighting journal. Its leather cover is cracked and worn smooth, its pages yellowed and dog-eared from decades of devoted study. She traces the faded inscription on the first page. His powerful, elegant script. Poder oculto es poder preservado. Power hidden is power preserved. Next to the journal rest several pairs of hand wraps, stained with the ghostly memory of old blood and sweat. One is special. It's the one he wore in his last fight, the one with the small, polished obsidian stone, El Martillo, sewn securely inside. It's a talisman he brought from his homeland, a relic passed down through generations of Rojas fighters, a legacy she was never supposed to claim. The cool, damp morning air hits her face like a slap as she begins her jog through the still-sleeping streets of East LA. She runs past shuttered businesses, their security gates covered in vibrant graffiti, and past the lonely figures of other early shift workers waiting like ghosts at bus stops. 6 miles every single morning, rain or shine. It's a ritual, a prayer, a punishment. It's the discipline her grandfather taught her since she was a small, skinny 6-year-old girl. Back then, it was their sacred secret. Abuela Elena never approved of fighting, of what she called that life. That life chewed up your grandfather and nearly swallowed him whole, mija, she'd say, her eyes filled with a distant, painful memory. I will not let it take you too. By 6:30 a.m., Amelia arrives at her first job of the day, night security at a sprawling self-storage facility. The day shift manager, a paunchy man named Stan, barely acknowledges her existence as she clocks out. He slides her paycheck across the counter without making eye contact. When it clears, every last cent will go straight to the pharmacy for Abuela's prohibitively expensive medication. Her real training begins 2 blocks from the projects where she grew up. The abandoned warehouse sits silent and derelict, a monument to a more prosperous time. The acrid smell of damp concrete, rusted metal, and decay fills her lungs as she slips through a broken panel in a large roll-up door. This is her sanctuary, her cathedral of pain. Inside, makeshift equipment lines the decaying walls. A heavy bag, stitched and patched with duct tape, suspended from exposed steel beams. Speed bags fashioned from old, taped-together cushions, and weights ingeniously crafted from cinder blocks and salvaged metal pipes. Her grandfather's voice, a low, rumbling echo in the cavern of her memory, speaks to her as she meticulously wraps her hands. The obsidian stone is a cool, solid presence against her pulse point. "Fighting isn't about being stronger or faster, Amelia," he'd say, his voice thick with his accent. "It's about knowing. Knowing what your opponent doesn't know about himself. And more importantly, knowing what he doesn't know about you." For 2 solid hours, Amelia moves through the familiar, brutal routines. Shadowboxing, her form crisp and fluid, footwork drills, her feet barely seeming to touch the dusty concrete floor. Combinations explode against the heavy bag. The sharp crack of her punches slices through the dusty, silent air. Each strike is precise, economical, brutally efficient. No wasted movement, no theatrics. This is not the showy, flashy style of Olympus athletics. This is the art of el martillo, designed for survival, not for points. The relentless, punishing rhythm of her fists hitting the bag drowns out the memory of Julian Croft's sneering laughter and Marcus Thorne's smug, arrogant face. It almost drowns out the hissing sound of her abuela's oxygen machine. By 10 o'clock a.m., she is back in hell. She's mopping the gleaming floors at Olympus Athletics, her muscles burning with a deep, satisfying ache beneath her baggy gray uniform. She is a ghost again. Invisible. Julian Croft strides through the main gym floor, barking into his phone, not even glancing in her direction. It's as if the humiliation of the previous night never happened. But it did. The sideways glances from the other staff members, the whispers that coil around her like snakes as she moves through the hallways, are proof of that. "You've been at it a long time, kid," a gravelly voice says from behind her. Amelia turns to find Manny, the 60-something maintenance man, leaning on his broom, his face a road map of wrinkles. His dark, knowing eyes are kind, a stark contrast to the cold, judgmental stares she usually endures. "Just doing my job, Manny," she replies, turning her attention back to a stubborn scuff mark on the floor. "Those are fighters' hands," Manny says quietly, his voice dropping. He gives a slight nod toward her calloused, bruised knuckles. "Can't hide them, no matter how much you scrub." Amelia stiffens, a jolt of alarm shooting through her. "I don't know what you're talking about." Manny smiles, the expression crinkling the corners of his eyes and revealing a gold tooth. "Sure you don't. Just like I don't know about that LA Havoc tournament coming up. Grand prize is $50,000. Could change someone's life, that kind of money." The mop freezes in Amelia's hands. $50,000. The number hangs in the air, shimmering, impossible. It was enough. It was enough for Abuela's treatment. It was enough to finally breathe. "Registration closes in 6 weeks, Manny continues, pretending to be absorbed in sweeping a clean patch of floor. "But you need a sponsor, a gym affiliation. They don't let just anyone walk in off the street." "I know," Amelia says flatly, the brief flicker of hope already extinguishing. She resumes her mopping, the methodical motion a comfort. "A place like this would never back someone like me." "Maybe," Manny shrugs, his eyes flicking toward Croft's office. "Then again, Julian's not as stable as he looks. Word is the gym's hemorrhaging members to that new MMA place downtown. He's bleeding cash. He needs Marcus to win that tournament. He needs the publicity, bad." Before Amelia can process this, Julian Croft's office door flies open with a crash. He storms out, his face a mask of flushed, purple anger, his phone pressed hard against his ear. "What do you mean you're dropping out?" he roars into the phone, his voice carrying across the entire gym. Everyone stops what they're doing. "We had a deal! 3 months of my time, my training, and you're backing out now? The registration deadline is—" He stops, listening intently, a muscle twitching violently in his cheek. He lets out a string of curses, his voice low and vicious. Fine. It's your loss. You'll regret this. He slams the door to his office, the glass wall shuddering in its frame. Through the glass, Amelia can see him pacing like a caged tiger, running his hands through his perfectly styled, expensive hair. Sounds like Croft just lost a fighter, Manny murmurs, almost to himself. Tournament rules allow 3 entries per gym. Now he only has Marcus Thorne. Why are you telling me this? Amelia asks, her voice barely a whisper, though a wild, terrifying idea is already taking root in her mind. Manny's eyes crinkle at the corners. He leans in closer. Maybe I knew your grandfather. Maybe I used to tape his hands before his fights, back when this neighborhood had real fighters, not these prima donnas Julian trains. That night, Amelia carefully helps Abuela Elena into bed, her movements gentle as she adjusts the clear plastic oxygen tube beneath her nose. Even this small effort leaves her grandmother breathless and pale. You're working too hard, mija, Abuela Rose says, her voice frail as she pats Amelia's hand. I see it in your eyes. That same fire your grandfather had. It burns too hot. I'm fine, Abuela. Just tired. Amelia lies. The hospital called again today, Abuela says, her sharp eyes still full of life despite her failing body, searching Amelia's face. That specialist, Dr. Evans. Let me worry about that, Amelia says, tucking the worn, fraying blanket around her grandmother's thin shoulders. You just rest. You know what your grandfather used to say? Abuela asks, a faint, sad smile on her lips. Amelia finishes the phrase with a sad smile of her own. Some fights aren't worth the winning. But as she lies awake on her mattress that night, staring at the water-stained ceiling, her grandfather's obsidian hand wrap clutched tight in her fist, Amelia knows that some fights are worth everything. 6 weeks. 6 weeks until registration for the tournament closes. 6 weeks to convince Julian Croft, a man who despises her very existence, that she deserves a spot. 6 weeks to save her grandmother's life. The obsidian stone gleams faintly in the moonlight, filtering through the grimy window. A dark, silent promise of the storm to come. The next 2 weeks unfold in a blurry, nightmarish montage of escalating humiliation. The story of Julian's joke, his magnanimous offer to let the cleaning lady spar with his champion, spreads through Olympus athletics like a contagion. Now, every corner of the gym holds a snickering trainer. Every piece of equipment reflects the mocking eyes of a client who looks at Amelia as if she were a piece of trash to be swept away. Hey, janitor, want to go a few rounds? One of Marcus Thorne's lanky, brain-dead training partners calls out as Amelia mops near the heavy bags. His friends erupt in hyena-like laughter, their phones raised with pathetic hopefulness, ready to capture the comedy. Amelia keeps her head down, her world shrinking to the steady, circular motion of the mop. Her jaw clenched so tight it aches. Ignore them, mija. Let them think what they want. Their perception is a weapon you can use against them. Her grandfather's voice is a calming balm on her raw nerves. But ignoring them becomes an impossible task when the meme appears. Someone, likely Marcus, pulled the security footage from that night. It's a still image of Amelia clutching her mop, her face a mask of shock and alarm, with a bold caption plastered across the top. Olympus Athletics' newest contender. She'll clean your clock. The meme circulates like wildfire through the gym's private client chat group, then, inevitably, leaks to local LA boxing forums. The online comments are a cesspool of cruelty and derision. That afternoon, she finds her small utility locker vandalized. A cheap, grainy printout of the meme is taped to the door, the word joke scrawled across her face in thick, angry red marker. Inside, her cleaning supplies have been tampered with. Someone has poured a full bottle of ammonia into her gallon jug of bleach. When she opens the cabinet, the chemical reaction creates a toxic cloud of chloramine gas that sears her eyes and makes her lungs burn with an agonizing fire. She stumbles back, choking and gasping for air. "Should be more careful with those chemicals," Marcus Thorne smirks as he and his cronies saunter past, not even breaking stride. "Dangerous job, cleaning floors." The threat isn't subtle. It's a sledgehammer. Amelia's hands tremble with a white-hot, nearly uncontrollable rage as she carefully carries the toxic mixture outside to dispose of it safely. This little prank will add an unpaid hour to her already long shift. An hour she can't afford. When she finally gets home that night, exhausted and defeated, she finds Abuela Elena sitting at the small kitchen table, her face ashen, a letter spread out on the worn vinyl before her. "The insurance company," she says without looking up, her voice hollow and brittle. "They denied the appeal. They have officially classified the experimental treatment as not medically necessary." Amelia feels the floor drop out from under her. Her stomach plummets, a nauseating freefall into absolute despair. "We'll figure something out, Abuela. We always do. Dr. Evans, the specialist, called me personally," her grandmother continues, her voice trembling. "He said there is a clinical trial. Starting next month. He thinks I am a perfect candidate." A tiny, fragile flicker of hope ignites in Amelia's tired eyes. "A trial? That's amazing." "But," Abuela says, her voice cracking, "we would need to put down a deposit to secure my spot. He said they only have 3 openings. The deposit is $20,000. $20,000? Amelia whispers the number. It might as well be 20 million. It's an impossible, insurmountable mountain of money. "I told him we don't have that kind of money, mija," Abuela says, her hands shaking as she carefully folds the cruel, official letter. "I have made my peace, Amelia. It is God's will." The next morning, driven by a desperation so fierce it tastes like blood in her mouth, Amelia waits outside Julian Croft's office, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. When he finally arrives, a large latte in one hand and his phone pressed to his ear, he barely gives her a passing glance. "Mr. Croft," she begins, her voice miraculously steadier than she feels. "Could I speak with you for a moment?" Julian lets out a loud, theatrical sigh, as if she is the greatest inconvenience he has ever had to suffer. "Make it quick. Some of us have actual jobs to do." "I want to train here," Amelia forces the words out, the sound of them alien and absurd in the opulent hallway. "Professionally, I want to enter the LA Havoc tournament." Julian stares at her for 3 long, silent seconds, his brain trying to compute the sheer audacity of her request. Then he throws his head back and bursts into laughter. It's not a sound of amusement, it's a sound of utter contempt. It echoes off the marble walls, drawing the attention of nearby trainers and clients, who stop to watch the spectacle. "Are you serious?" he gasps, wiping an imaginary tear from his eye. "Listen, sweetheart. This is an elite, world-class training facility. This isn't a charity case for janitors with delusions of grandeur." "I can pay the registration fee myself," Amelia presses, her desperation overriding her pride. I need the gym affiliation." "Even if you could somehow afford the membership fee, which you can't," Julian sneers, his amusement curdling into irritation. "You need a proven track record. You need references, amateur bouts, years of sanctioned training. You have none of that." His voice drops to a dismissive whisper. "Now, if you're quite done wasting my time, those bathrooms won't clean themselves." He brushes past her, deliberately bumping her shoulder hard. The hot latte sloshes from his cup, splashing all over the front of her gray uniform. The fabric darkens immediately, the liquid scaldingly hot against her skin. "Oops," he says without turning back. "Clean that up too." The hot sting of the coffee is nothing compared to the burning acid of humiliation that fills Amelia's chest. Trainers and early morning clients stare openly, some snickering into their hands. She feels like an insect under a microscope. She retreats to the supply closet, her hands shaking as she changes into her spare shirt. She returns to her duties, her mop her only companion. But somewhere in the darkest, most hidden corner of her heart, something has shifted. The smoldering rage has crystallized into a diamond-hard, unshakable resolve. That evening, a new catastrophe. She arrives at her sanctuary, the abandoned warehouse, to find the entrance blocked by massive construction equipment. A large, professionally printed sign declares, "Future home of Lincoln Park, luxury condos. Private property. No trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted." Her training space, the only place she could truly be herself, is gone. Amelia just stands there, staring at the sign, the accumulated weight of her losses threatening to crush the very breath from her lungs. No gym. No warehouse. No money. No hope for Abuela. Her phone buzzes. It's a text from her second job, the weekend gig bussing tables at a greasy spoon diner. Schedule change. Now working Saturday and Sunday nights. See new hours attached. She opens the attachment. They've changed her hours, cut them just enough to cripple her paycheck without officially qualifying as a full reduction. A slow, creeping suspicion tells her this isn't a coincidence. Her fists clench at her sides, her fingernails digging painful half-moons into her palms. She feels like screaming, but the sound is trapped in her throat. When she returns home, Abuela is on the phone, her voice uncharacteristically sharp and angry. "No, you listen to me. Those pills were supposed to last for the entire month. I cannot afford to refill the prescription early just because you people sent the wrong dosage." She slams the ancient landline phone down, a luxury they can barely afford, but which the doctor insists upon for emergencies. She notices Amelia standing in the doorway. "The pharmacy," she explains, her face etched with worry. "They say our copay went up, again. The insurance company has reclassified my condition. Again." A tear of pure frustration rolls down her wrinkled cheek. "How much?" Amelia asks, her own voice numb. $200 more. Per week." Her grandmother's eyes, usually so full of life, fill with the clouded look of defeat. I will stop taking the evening dose. I can stretch it out." "No." The word is sharp, a blade in the quiet room. Amelia crosses the room in 2 strides and kneels beside her grandmother's worn armchair. "No, you take your medicine exactly as the doctor prescribed. I'll handle it. I will handle it." The next day at Olympus, Manny finds her aggressively scrubbing an already immaculate piece of equipment, her knuckles rubbed raw. "Heard Croft shot you down," he says quietly, his voice a low rumble. "Did the whole gym hear it?" Amelia's voice is brittle, laced with bitterness. "Just me," he replies. "I have good ears." He glances around, ensuring no one is within earshot, then lowers his voice even further. "I told you I knew your grandfather, James Stonehand Alder. That was the name he used in the ring here. Your abuela never liked it. To me, he was Ricardo Rojas. Ricardo El Martillo Rojas. He was undefeated in the underground circuit for 15 years. Amelia freezes, her hand still clutching the cleaning rag. "My grandfather was a mechanic." Manny's laugh is soft, sad, and knowing. "That too. The man contained multitudes, kid. A real Renaissance man." He pulls up the sleeve of his work shirt, revealing a faded, hand-poked tattoo on his weathered forearm. It's an image of a polished obsidian stone, identical to the one nestled inside Amelia's hand wrap. We came up together, fought on the same cards. I was his cornerman for the most important fights of his life. I was the one who wrapped his hands. What would you do in her shoes? When every door seems to be slammed in your face, where do you find the strength to keep going? Comment below with your thoughts, and if you're finding this story as gripping as we are, hit that like button. It tells us we're on the right track. Before Amelia can even begin to process this earth-shattering revelation, Marcus Thorne's arrogant voice cuts through their private conversation like a shard of glass. "Hey, cleaning staff!" he calls out, sauntering over with several of his lunk-headed training partners in tow. "Shouldn't you two be mopping something? Or are you too busy plotting your big fighting debut?" His friends laugh on cue, a braying, moronic chorus. Amelia turns away, determined to ignore him, but Marcus steps directly in front of her, blocking her path. His sheer physical presence is intimidating. "I asked you a question." His voice drops, the mockery replaced by a chilling, raw menace. "Julian says you've been getting ideas above your station, thinking you belong in our world, thinking you belong in that ring." The overpowering smell of his expensive, nauseating cologne makes Amelia's stomach roil. She tries to step around him, but his hand shoots out with surprising speed, his fingers digging into her upper arm like talons. His grip is iron. "I'm talking to you," he hisses, his face just inches from hers. "I said, let go." Amelia's voice is dangerously quiet, but it is edged with the hard, sharp steel of a razor blade. Marcus's grip tightens, a cruel smile twisting his lips. "Or what? You'll clean me to death?" The entire gymnasium seems to fall silent. A small crowd begins to gather, their cell phones held at the ready. Amelia can feel their collective gaze, a heavy, suffocating weight. She can hear their excited, morbid whispers. In her mind's eye, she sees her abuela's medical bills, a mountain of debt. She sees the tournament deadline, a ticking clock. She sees everything she stands to lose, all of it crushing down on her at once. "Last chance," she warns, her heart hammering against her ribs like a drumbeat of war. Marcus just laughs, a short, ugly bark. He yanks her closer. "What are you gonna do about—" The movement is a blur. It happens so fast that most of the onlookers, their phones filming, will have to watch it again in slow motion to even understand it. Amelia's right hand snakes up, breaking his grip at the wrist with a sharp, precise twist that uses his own momentum against him. Simultaneously, her left palm strikes upward in a blur of motion, a perfect open-handed check that stops a millimeter short of Marcus Thorne's nose. It doesn't touch him, but the shockwave of displaced air makes him flinch violently. She then steps back, a single, fluid motion, perfectly balanced on the balls of her feet, her hands returning to a neutral, non-threatening position. The gym is frozen in a moment of collective, stunned shock. Marcus stumbles backward, his eyes wide with surprise, and something else, something he hasn't felt in a very long time. Fear. "What the hell?" he sputters, touching his nose as if expecting to find it shattered. Amelia remains perfectly still, a statue of deadly calm. Her breathing is controlled, her eyes locked on his. The stance she has taken. The perfect balance, the controlled explosion of movement. It's unmistakable to anyone who actually knows fighting. This was no lucky move, no desperate, flailing strike. This was trained, hardwired muscle memory. Marcus, his pride wounded and his mind reeling, lunges forward, throwing a wild, telegraphed right hook. Amelia slips the punch with a barely perceptible movement of her head, countering with a light, almost gentle tap to his ribcage. She pulls the strike at the last second. It's a strike that could have cracked his ribs, could have folded him in half. But the perfect, exquisite form of the counter sends a ripple of shock through the knowledgeable trainers in the crowd. Even Manny, watching from the edge of the crowd, lets his gold tooth gleam in a wide, surprised smile. "Enough!" Lord Julian Croft's voice cuts through the stunned silence like a whip. He shoves his way through the gathered crowd, his face a mask of purple, contorted rage. "What in God's name is going on here?" "She attacked me!" Marcus bleats, pointing a trembling finger at Amelia, his voice rising a full octave. "You all saw it!" "He grabbed me first," Amelia replies, her voice preternaturally calm. "I defended myself." Julian's eyes dart between them, then to the silent, watching faces of his clients and trainers. "Everyone back to work! Now, the show is over!" When the crowd reluctantly and disappointedly disperses, he turns to Amelia, his voice low and seething with a venomous danger. "My office, now." Inside Julian's sterile, glass-walled office, he slams the door so hard the glass shudders and rounds on her. "You're fired! Get your things and get out of my building." There's no negotiation, no discussion, just cold, final execution. As two burly security guards lead a numb Amelia through the gym, she keeps her head held high, refusing to let them see her break. Just outside the main entrance, a teenage girl with startlingly familiar blue eyes, wearing an expensive private school uniform, rushes up to her. It's Julian's daughter, Clara. "I saw what happened in there," Clara says, holding up her phone. The screen shows a crystal-clear recording of the entire incident. "That fighter, Marcus, he grabbed you first. You were just defending yourself." "My dad didn't want to hear it," Amelia says, her voice flat. "It doesn't matter now." She turns to leave, to walk away from Olympus Athletics and everything it represents for the last time. "Wait!" Clara calls after her, her voice urgent. "Don't you want to know why I recorded it?" Amelia pauses, looking back at the young girl's surprisingly determined face. "Because Marcus Thorne is a creep, and my dad enables him," Clara continues, her voice laced with a defiant anger that reminds Amelia of herself. "They think they can treat people however they want, just because they have money or titles or followers. They're wrong." Before Amelia can respond, Clara's sleek black Tesla pulls up to the curb, and she's gone. That night, alone in her cold, quiet apartment, Amelia's cheap, second-hand phone explodes with a cacophony of notifications. It won't stop buzzing. Clara Croft has posted the video to every social media platform imaginable. The caption is simple and devastating. "My dad's gym, Olympus Athletics, just fired this woman for defending herself against his star fighter." Olympus Scandal. Me Too. Fire Marcus Thorne. The video has already been shared hundreds of thousands of times. The comment section is a raging inferno of outrage. Amelia stares at her phone, her mind reeling in disbelief as the view count climbs into the millions. Then, a text from an unknown number vibrates on her screen. "Community gym. 5 a.m. tomorrow. Don't be late." Dawn is just beginning to bleed purple and orange across the Los Angeles skyline as Amelia approaches the address Manny sent her. The East LA Community Boxing Gym is nothing like the opulent, sterile hell of Olympus Athletics. It's a squat, unassuming brick building with barred windows and a faded, hand-painted sign. Inside, the air is thick with the sacred smell of old leather, sweat, and decades of relentless effort. The equipment is old, battered, and scarred, but impeccably maintained. The walls are a chaotic collage of yellowing newspaper clippings and fight posters from a bygone era, a museum of forgotten warriors. Manny stands in the center of a worn, canvas-stained boxing ring, wrapping his own hands with the practiced, fluid movements of a man who has done this tens of thousands of times. "You came," he says, not looking up from his work. I'm out of options, Manny, Amelia answers, the truth of the statement heavy in her voice. No, Manny says, finishing his raps and finally looking up, his dark eyes gleaming with a fierce intensity. You're just beginning to see them. He gestures with his head toward the wall of champions behind her. Amelia turns, and her breath catches in her throat. Her heart stops. Among the faded black and white photographs is one she has never seen before. A photograph of her grandfather. Young, powerful, magnificent. His arm is raised in victory, his face a mask of triumphant exhaustion. The obsidian-wrapped hand is held high. Beneath the photograph, a yellowed newspaper headline reads, El Martillo. Rojas remains undefeated. The hammer of East La strikes again. Welcome to your inheritance, mija, Manny says softly, his voice thick with emotion. Your grandfather built this place. He owned it with 3 other fighters from the neighborhood. After he promised your abuela he'd quit the circuit, he kept this gym going, for the community, for kids like you. Amelia approaches the photograph, her fingers trembling as she gently touches the glass protecting the image of the man she thought she knew. Why didn't he tell me? He was telling you, Manny says, jumping down from the ring with the easy grace of a much younger man. Every lesson, every drill, every secret he whispered to you when you were a girl, he was telling you in his own way. He stands before her, his expression serious. The question is, what are you going to do with what he taught you? I need to enter that tournament, Amelia says, her voice unwavering, a new fire in her eyes. For my abuela, for him, for myself. Manny's gold tooth flashes in a triumphant smile. Registration closes in 3 weeks. The tournament committee requires official gym affiliation and a sanctioned qualifying match. But I have no affiliation, Amelia begins. Leah. Not with Julian Croft's gym, Manny says, gesturing to the vibrant, living history all around them. With this gym, the El Martillo Memorial Boxing Club, officially registered with the Amateur Boxing Association of California since 1987. A hope so fierce and powerful it almost brings her to her knees flares in Amelia's chest. You can sponsor me. Better, Manny says, his face growing serious, the smile disappearing. I can train you, the right way, your grandfather's way. But you need to understand what you're getting into. This is not a game. Julian Croft will try to block you at every turn. Marcus Thorne will want revenge, and it won't be in a ring. Amelia's muscles scream in protest as she completes her 15th consecutive burpee the next day, sweat pooling on the worn concrete floor of El Martillo Memorial. The smell of old leather and decades of human effort fill her lungs with each gasping, ragged breath. Otra vez, Manny barks, his eyes fixed on the stopwatch in his hand. Again! 10 more! Your grandfather would have done 20! As the days blur into a punishing cycle of training, recovery, and work at the diner, news of Amelia's quest begins to spread through the neighborhood. At first, it's just whispers, fueled by the viral video and local gossip. Then, the residents of East LA begin to show up. A few old-timers who remembered Ricardo El Martillo Rojas from his glory days come to watch her train, their faces filled with a nostalgic pride. Some of the local kids, drawn by the spectacle and the legend, begin to hang around, watching in awe. By the end of the first week, 5 more neighborhood people, men and women of all ages, have tentatively joined her workouts, drawn by the pull of community and the irresistible story of a local girl taking on the Beverly Hills elite. You're becoming a local celebrity, kid, Manny notes as he towels sweat from her face between rounds on the heavy bag. Amelia frowns, her breathing still ragged. I'm not here for fame, Manny. Maybe not, Manny says, his voice serious. But allies are valuable. Julian Croft has money, connections, lawyers. We have people. We need numbers. Croft's counterattack has already begun, silent and insidious. Someone has anonymously leaked her sealed juvenile employment history to the same LA boxing forums, painting her as unstable, unqualified, and potentially violent from a young age. The qualifying match has been set for 2 weeks, but 3 potential opponents have already pulled out at the last minute, all citing scheduling conflicts after receiving threatening calls from Croft's lawyers. He's blacklisting me, Amelia realizes, a cold dread seeping into her bones. Trying to, Manny nods grimly. But he can't threaten everyone. He can't reach everyone. When Amelia arrives home that evening, her body aching and her spirit flagging, she finds Abuela Elena at the kitchen table, another official-looking letter open before her. The clinical trial. They called. Her grandmother's voice is steady, but her hands tremble. They've moved up the start date. There was a cancellation. If we want the spot, we need the $20,000 deposit in 10 days. 10 days. 10 days. The qualifying match is in 12. The tournament itself doesn't start for almost a month. The timeline is impossible. 10 days, Amelia whispers. Amelia, her grandmother asks, her eyes full of a new worry. What is this video people at church keep calling me about? Something about you fighting at that fancy gym? The question catches Amelia off guard. She sinks into the chair opposite her grandmother, the weight of the world on her shoulders. I lost my job at Olympus, Abuela, she admits quietly. There was an incident. Were you hurt? Immediate, fierce concern floods Abuela Elena's tired eyes, pushing aside all other thoughts. No, Amelia hesitates, then decides the time for secrets and half-truths is over. I defended myself. I used what Grandpa taught me. Abuela goes very still, her face becoming a mask. What do you mean, what he taught you? Slowly, deliberately, Amelia unwraps the worn leather from around her wrist, revealing the polished obsidian stone. This was his, you know that. What you might not know is what it meant to him, what El Martillo really means, and what it means to me. Recognition dawns in her grandmother's eyes, quickly followed by a tidal wave of alarm. He promised me, she whispers, her voice shaking with an old, deep-seated pain. He promised me he wouldn't involve you in that life. That life, it nearly killed him a dozen times over, mija. The underground fights, the broken bones, the injuries he tried to hide from me, from everyone. I know about the gym, Abuela, Amelia says gently. El Martillo Memorial. Manny told me everything. I'm training there now. She leans forward, taking her grandmother's fragile, papery hands in hers. There's a tournament coming up, the LA Havoc tournament. The prize is $50,000. It's enough. It's enough for your treatment. Horror replaces the surprise on Abuela Elena's face. No, absolutely not. I will not have you getting hurt, getting broken, for my sake. I forbid it. It's not just for you anymore, Abuela. It's for me, too. Amelia struggles to articulate the profound elemental feeling that has taken root in her soul. All these years, I've been hiding what I can do, hiding who I am. I'm done hiding. The relentless hiss of the oxygen machine in the background is a constant suffocating reminder of what's at stake. Amelia feels torn between honoring her grandmother's fear and following the path that feels, for the first time in her life, like her destiny. The deposit deadline is in 10 days, Amelia says quietly, her voice resonating with an unshakable finality. I have to try, Abuela. I have to fight. Abuela Elena turns away, her shoulders slumping in defeat and sorrow. I cannot watch you destroy yourself, she whispers. Not even for me. 3 days before the qualifying match, a day Amelia is convinced her grandmother will never speak to her again. She arrives home to find Abuela waiting for her. A small, intricately carved wooden box rests in her lap. I found something, Abuela Rose says, her voice thick with unshed tears. Something you should have. She opens the box. Inside, resting on a bed of faded red velvet, is a complete, pristine set of hand wraps, each one with a small, perfectly polished obsidian stone sewn inside. Your grandfather's competition wraps, she whispers. He wore these for his championship fights, the real ones. Amelia takes them with a reverence reserved for holy relics. I thought you didn't approve. I don't, Abuela admits, her voice cracking. But I also know that the granddaughter of Ricardo El Martillo Rojas does not back down from a righteous fight. She presses the box firmly into Amelia's hands. Just promise me one thing, mija. Please. Win or lose. This tournament is the end, not the beginning. Get the money for my treatment if you can, but do not make that life your own. Your grandfather, he always wanted better for you. The qualifying match venue is a world away from the glossy, soulless perfection of Olympus athletics. Housed in a sweltering, packed community center gymnasium in the heart of the South Side, the makeshift arena consists of a regulation ring surrounded by a chaotic jumble of folding chairs. In the small, cramped locker room, Manny carefully, almost ritualistically, wraps Amelia's hands with her grandfather's competition wraps. The obsidian stone is positioned precisely over her pulse point, a cool, solid anchor in a sea of anxiety. Committee members are all seated, Manny says, his voice low and steady, a calming presence. Julian Croft is here. Front row, dead center. He brought Marcus Thorne and his whole entourage. They're trying to intimidate you. Let them watch, Amelia replies, flexing her fingers, feeling the perfect tension of the wraps. Let them see what a real fighter looks like. As Amelia emerges from the locker room, she's startled by the sheer size and volume of the crowd. What should have been a sparsely attended, procedural qualifying match has drawn hundreds of people. The entire neighborhood, it seems, has turned out. Dozens of people are wearing homemade t-shirts with Team Rojas or a crude drawing of a hammer emblazoned across the front. And in the second row, seated in a wheelchair near the ring, a portable oxygen tank at her side, is Abuela Elena. Their eyes meet across the noisy gymnasium, and her grandmother gives a small, resolute nod of encouragement. It's all Amelia needs. In the opposite corner, her opponent, Macy Diaz, a tough, seasoned former regional champion, limbers up. The committee, under pressure from Croft, had insisted on a highly credentialed opponent to verify Amelia's skills. The referee calls both fighters to the center of the ring. Clean fight, ladies, he says, his eyes lingering on Amelia for a moment. This is an exhibition qualifying match. 3 two-minute rounds. The judges are scoring for technique and skill. They are not looking for a knockout. The bell rings, and a preternatural calm descends upon Amelia. She settles immediately into her stance. It's not the conventional boxing posture taught at flashy gyms like Olympus, but the modified hybrid style her grandfather developed over years of bare-knuckle fighting. A slightly lower center of gravity, hands positioned to disguise the devastating power of her counterpunches. The first round is a technical masterclass. Amelia moves with a fluid grace, showcasing footwork and defensive skills that leave Macy and the judges visibly impressed. Between rounds, Manny dabs sweat from her forehead. "You're looking good, kid. Perfect. But they need to see more. In this next round, show them something special." The bell rings for round 2. Macy, clearly frustrated, comes out more aggressively, trying to force Amelia into a brawl. She forces Amelia back, demonstrating her impressive defensive skills and lightning-fast footwork. A hard, straight right cross gets through Amelia's guard, snapping her head back with a loud crack. The crowd gasps. Amelia tastes the metallic tang of blood from a split lip, but doesn't falter, doesn't give an inch of ground. She responds with a flurry of her own, culminating in a lightning-fast counterpunch that catches Macy completely by surprise. It's a move straight from her grandfather's journal. The phantom step, he had called it. A subtle, almost imperceptible weight shift that creates the illusion of movement in one direction while delivering explosive power from the opposite side. One of the judges, an older, respected official, actually stands up from his seat to get a better view, an expression of sheer disbelief on his face. Across the ring, even Julian Croft's dismissive sneer has shifted to a look of genuine concern. When the final bell rings, the audience, her audience, erupts in a deafening wave of applause and cheers. The head judge approaches Amelia as Manny is carefully removing her gloves. "Impressive showing, Ms. Rojas. Very impressive," he says, a note of sincere respect in his voice. "The committee will have a final decision by tomorrow morning, but I wouldn't worry too much." As Amelia exits the ring, she spots Julian Croft in a heated, angry conversation with the tournament director, gesturing emphatically toward her while the director just shakes his head. Her phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. It's from the judge who had just spoken to her. "Committee has approved your registration. Congratulations. Your first tournament match is in 10 days. Good luck." The LA Havoc tournament's opening day dawns clear and cool. The venue is the Chicago Forum, the city's premier fighting arena, a place typically reserved for professional world championship bouts. It's a universe away from the community center. Amelia arrives early with Manny, taking in the vastly different atmosphere. Luxury skyboxes, a massive jumbotron, and professional television cameras positioned for the pay-per-view streaming coverage. "Remember, kid," Manny says, his voice a low anchor in the chaotic storm of activity. "Your first opponent is Miguel Santos. He's a former Olympus fighter, now with Elite MMA. He's an aggressive brawler. Stick to the plan." A sharp knock on the dressing room door. A nervous-looking tournament official stands there, clutching a clipboard. "Ms. Rojas, I'm afraid there's an issue with your registration paperwork. Can you please come with me?" They follow the official to a small, windowless office where the tournament director, a man named Henderson, waits with a deeply concerned expression on his face. "We've received a formal complaint," he explains, not meeting her eyes. "Olympus Athletics alleges that you falsified your experience level on your application." He produces a cease and desist letter from Olympus's high-powered legal team. They're threatening legal action against the entire tournament if Ms. Rojas is allowed to compete. Henderson sighs, rubbing his temples. "Normally, we'd have no choice but to suspend your participation pending a full investigation. But the committee reviewed Ms. Diaz's official evaluation of your qualifying match again this morning. Her professional assessment of your elite skill level overrides Olympus's complaint. We believe this action is retaliatory and without merit. The tournament will proceed with you in the bracket as planned. Good luck, Miss Rojas." The first match against Miguel Santos proves to be challenging, but ultimately straightforward. Amelia sticks rigorously to Manny's game plan, using her superior, almost hypnotic footwork to neutralize Santos's aggressive, forward-marching style. She makes him miss again and again, frustrating him, making him angry. When she lands a clean, three-punch combination in the second round that sends Santos stumbling back into the ropes, the crowd erupts in a roar of surprised approval. "Who is this girl?" someone shouts from the upper decks. The answer comes in round 3, when Amelia executes a perfect counter over a lazy jab, a devastating right hand that drops Santos hard to one knee. The referee initiates a standing 8 count, but Santos, his eyes glazed over, waves it off, signaling he's done. Amelia Rojas's first tournament victory comes by technical knockout. Julian Croft's interference, however, continues like a shadow throughout the preliminary rounds. Amelia's locker room is mysteriously reassigned to a cramped, unlit utility closet. A vital piece of her equipment goes missing moments before a match. The official schedule seems to change without notice, giving her minimal recovery time between fights, while Marcus Thorne enjoys extended, luxurious rest periods. Despite these petty, relentless obstacles, Amelia advances through the bracket, her legend growing with each fight. Each victory is more convincing, more spectacular than the last. Her fighting style, a unique, unpredictable blend of her grandfather's unorthodox El Martillo techniques and Manny's strategic chess-like guidance, confounds and dismantles opponents trained in more conventional textbook methods. By the time the semifinals arrive, Amelia Rojas, the unknown cleaning lady from East LA, has become the tournament's breakout star, its Cinderella story. The stands fill with supporters wearing jade green t-shirts, a nod to her story and her grandfather's stone. The media has nicknamed her La Martilla, the Little Hammer. She is preparing to face Marcus the Mauler Thorne. In the locker room, hours before the most important match of her life, disaster strikes. During her warm-up routine, as she snaps a punch into Manny's hand mitts, a searing, white-hot pain explodes in her right hand. The intense schedule and the accumulated strain of her fights have inflamed an old, deep bone bruise. She cries out in pain. "I can barely make a fist," she grimaces, as Manny gently examines the rapidly swelling hand. "The medical staff will see this," Manny says gravely, his face pale with worry. "They'll force a withdrawal. They'll pull you from the fight." Despair threatens to overwhelm her. And then her eyes fall on her grandfather's competition wraps, the polished obsidian stone gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights. "The stone wrap," she says suddenly, her eyes lighting up with a desperate idea. "Manny, in Grandpa's journal. He wrote about a special wrapping technique he used for support after he broke his hand." With painstaking precision, following the faded diagrams in the journal, Manny applies the special wrapping technique. He positions the obsidian stone not over her pulse, but over a key acupressure point on the back of her hand, wrapping the cloth tightly to provide both unyielding support and constant pressure. The searing pain doesn't disappear entirely, but it recedes to a manageable, throbbing ache. It will have to be enough. The arena is electric, the air crackling with tension as Amelia and Marcus meet in the center of the ring for the referee's final instructions. Marcus's expression is no longer dismissive or arrogant. He's studied her fights. He's seen what she can do. Now he looks at her with a chilling, cold hatred. When they touch gloves, a pro forma gesture of sportsmanship, Marcus leans in close, his voice a venomous whisper meant only for her. "Julian says to tell you he knows all about your dear old abuela's condition. Says it's a real shame about that clinical trial spot. It's going to go to someone else after you lose tonight. Someone whose family can actually pay. The bell rings. The world narrows to the 20 by 20-foot ring. Amelia settles into her stance, the blinding rage from his words channeled into a laser-like focus. Her grandfather's voice echoes in her mind, a calming mantra against the storm of her fury. Let the anger focus you, mija, not blind you. Use it as fuel. Round 1 is a tense, strategic chess match. Both fighters are cautious, probing defenses, measuring distances, respecting each other's power. Marcus fights with a technical soundness that surprises Amelia. He's not just a brawler, he's been trained well. She protects her injured right hand, using her left jab almost exclusively to establish range and timing, frustrating him. Round 2 begins with Marcus pressing forward relentlessly, sensing Amelia's growing discomfort, her reluctance to throw the right hand. He lands a hard, thudding combination that backs her into the ropes. The crowd gasps as Marcus pours on the pressure, unleashing a furious barrage of punches, looking for the finish. Amelia weathers the brutal storm, her body absorbing the punishment, her defensive skills, honed through years of training against larger, stronger men, keeping her upright. When Marcus overextends on a wild right hook, she counters with a perfectly timed, lightning-fast left that rocks him back on his heels, his eyes widening in surprise. "That's it!" Manny shouts from the corner, his voice cutting through the roar of the crowd. "He drops his guard after the hook. He always does." The bell rings for the third and final round. Marcus charges forward, clearly instructed by Julian Croft to finish the fight, to end this fairy tale. Amelia gives ground strategically, using her sublime footwork to create angles, to make Marcus miss by mere millimeters. Frustration builds on Marcus's face as Amelia slips another one of his power combinations. He begins telegraphing his punches, throwing wider, more powerful shots, just as Manny predicted he would. With 40 seconds left in the round, Marcus makes the critical, fatal mistake. Overcommitting to a massive right cross, he leaves himself dangerously exposed for a fraction of a second. It is all the opening Amelia needs. Time seems to slow down, the roar of the crowd fading to a dull hum. She executes the technique her grandfather had perfected, the one she had practiced thousands upon thousands of times in a dusty, abandoned warehouse. The stone hand counter. A simultaneous slip and pivot that generates extraordinary, explosive power from minimal movement, a technique that relies on timing and physics, not brute strength. Amelia's right hand, powered by a force beyond mere muscle, a force fueled by desperation, by pain, by her grandfather's legacy and her grandmother's love, connects with perfect, beautiful precision on the point of Marcus Thorne's jaw. The impact reverberates through the arena like a gunshot. Marcus Thorne's eyes go blank before he even begins to fall. He hits the canvas like a felled tree. A profound, absolute silence falls over the packed arena. Then it erupts into a single, deafening cheer as the referee, his eyes wide with shock, begins the count. Marcus struggles to one knee, wobbles on unsteady legs, and then falls back to the canvas. The count reaches 10. And Emilia La Martilla Rojas, the cleaning lady from East LA, has accomplished the impossible. She has knocked out Olympus Athletics' undefeated, undisputed star fighter. In Julian Croft's VIP box, chairs scrape loudly on the floor as he storms out, his face a grotesque mask of contorted, apoplectic rage. At ringside, Abuela Elena raises a trembling, wrinkled hand in a silent salute, tears of pride and relief streaming down her weathered cheeks. The referee raises Amelia's arm in victory, and the obsidian stone, now free from the glove, catches the bright arena lights. gleaming like a black, unblinking star. The aftermath unfolds in a surreal, disorienting blur of brilliant lights, deafening sounds, and overwhelming sensation. Amelia stands in the center of the ring, her arm held aloft by the referee, the thunderous, earth-shaking roar of the crowd washing over her in euphoric waves. For a moment, she feels strangely disconnected from her own body, as if she is watching a scene from a movie, a scene starring someone else. The janitor who scrubbed the floors and toilets of Olympus Athletics, the Invisible Woman, is now the unwavering focus of thousands of cheering, adoring fans. Winner by knockout and advancing to the championship final, Amelia La Martilla Rojas. The announcer's voice booms through the arena's sound system, the words echoing into history. A blinding constellation of camera flashes erupts as Amelia climbs down from the ring, and she is immediately enveloped in Manny's crushing bear hug. "You did it, kid," he whispers, his voice thick with an emotion that transcends mere words. "You did it. El Martillo would be so proud." A tournament official, breathless and excited, approaches with a microphone, a pack of local sports media reporters trailing in his wake. "Amelia, an absolutely incredible performance, from cleaning staff to knocking out the tournament favorite. How does it feel?" The crowd quiets, leaning forward in their seats, eager to hear her response. Amelia's eyes scan the crowd and find Abuela Elena, whose ever-present oxygen tank cannot hide the radiant pride beaming from her tired, tear-streaked face. "It feels like justice," Amelia says, her voice clear and strong, carrying through the arena. "Not just for me, but for everyone who's ever been underestimated, overlooked, or pushed aside because of who they are or where they come from." The crowd erupts again, her simple, heartfelt words striking a powerful chord that resonates far beyond the world of boxing, beyond sport itself. "Did you always know you had this kind of talent hidden inside you?" another reporter asks, shoving a microphone in her face. "My grandfather saw it in me before I saw it in myself," Amelia responds, her hand instinctively touching the obsidian stone at her wrist. "He taught me that power isn't always about showing your strength. Sometimes it's about knowing exactly when to reveal it." Before Amelia can answer any more questions, a commotion erupts near the main exit tunnel. Julian Croft, his face flushed a dangerous shade of purple, pushes his way through security, his arm outstretched, pointing an accusing finger toward the ring. "That rap is illegal!" he bellows, his voice carrying with startling clarity across the now hushed arena. "Check her hand wrap. That's non-regulation material. She cheated." Tournament officials exchange nervous, concerned glances. The head referee, looking apologetic, approaches Amelia. "I'm very sorry, Ms. Rojas, but according to regulations, we are required to inspect your wraps." As a medical official carefully and slowly unwraps her hand, revealing the polished black obsidian stone nestled within the cloth, Julian Croft's triumphant, gloating expression says everything. He believes he's found it. His loophole, his technicality, his way to invalidate her victory and salvage his reputation. The medical official examines the stone, then confers briefly with the tournament director, Henderson, who flips rapidly through a thick rule book, his brow furrowed in concentration. "The stone is secured within regulation gauze and tape," Henderson finally announces, his voice amplified by the arena's speakers. "It contains no metal parts or hardening agents. There is no rule violation." Julian Croft's face contorts into a mask of pure disbelief. "This is absurd. She's a janitor, not a fighter. This whole tournament is a farce, a complete and utter farce." His pathetic, desperate outburst echoes through the suddenly silent arena. Hundreds of phones are now recording his epic meltdown. The mighty Julian Croft, the kingmaker of Beverly Hills, reduced to a sputtering, petulant child. From the crowd, a clear, steady voice emerges. It's Clara Croft, Julian's daughter, her own phone held high like a torch. "Dad, everyone can hear you. Everyone can see you." Her voice trembles slightly, but holds firm. "Just like they can see this." She taps her phone screen, and the arena's giant jumbotrons, which had been replaying the knockout, flicker and switch to new footage. It's a secretly recorded video from inside Julian's office. The audio is crystal clear. It's Julian, instructing tournament officials which bracket to place Amelia in, offering them bribes to ensure certain unfavorable matchups. The video cuts to another clip. Julian explicitly ordering Marcus Thorne to injure her, hurt her enough to force a withdrawal, end the fairy tale. The crowd's low murmur builds to an outraged, furious roar. Tournament officials huddle together in an urgent, panicked conference. Julian stands frozen, a statue of guilt and disbelief, exposed in high definition for the entire world to see. "I've been recording everything," Clara says, her voice now amplified by a microphone that someone has handed her. "Every corrupt deal, every bribe, every single time he cheated the system to get what he wanted." Julian Croft is unceremoniously escorted from the arena by security, his face a pale, ghostly white. In the luxury boxes, his sponsors are already on their phones, frantically calling their PR teams, severing all ties with the toxic Olympus brand. In the beautiful, righteous chaos that follows, Amelia makes her way to Abuela Elena, kneeling beside her wheelchair, oblivious to the cameras and the reporters. "Did you see, Abuela?" she asks, her voice choked with emotion. "Did you see what Grandpa's teachings did?" "I saw," her grandmother whispers, cupping Amelia's bruised and swollen cheek with her soft, wrinkled hand. "I saw justice, mija." The championship final the following day feels almost anticlimactic, a coronation. Amelia faces a worthy, tough opponent, but she fights with a newfound sense of freedom and joy. The heavy, crushing weight of Julian Croft's machinations and the desperate need for the prize money have been lifted. When the final bell rings, the judge's decision is swift and unanimous. Amelia Rojas, the girl from East LA, is the LA Havoc Tournament champion, $50,000 richer. On the podium, holding an oversized check, her face a mixture of exhaustion and elation, Amelia searches the cheering crowd for the only faces that matter. Manny, beaming with a pride so immense it seems to light him from within. Abuela Elena, her tears now flowing freely, tears of pure joy. The dozens of neighborhood supporters who believed in her from the very beginning, who saw her not as a janitor, but as one of their own. "Ms. Rojas," Henderson, the tournament director, says as the cameras flash, "as champion, you are entitled to a full-year professional gym sponsorship for the next competitive season. Have you decided which facility you'll be representing?" Amelia smiles, a wide, genuine smile that reaches her eyes. "El Martillo Memorial Boxing Club," she says, her voice ringing with pride. "Where I came from, where I belong." The aftermath of the tournament ripples outward like a stone thrown into a still pond. The viral videos of Amelia's victory, Marcus's knockout, and Julian's epic meltdown generate millions of views worldwide. Local and national news outlets feature her incredible story. The janitor with the stone fist. The hammer of East LA. How a grandfather's legacy and a daughter's courage toppled a corrupt empire. Olympus Athletics' pristine reputation collapses overnight. Elite clients cancel their exorbitant memberships en masse. Sponsors publicly withdraw their support. The State Athletic Commission launches a full-scale investigation into Julian Croft's practices, uncovering years of corrupt dealings, fixed fights, and financial fraud. 3 days after the tournament, Amelia and Manny sit in the comfortable waiting room of a specialist's office as Abuela Elena undergoes her very first treatment in the clinical trial. The paperwork is all processed, and the deposit is paid in full, the doctor confirms with a warm smile. Your grandmother's place in the full treatment protocol is secured. Outside the hospital, a small crowd of young girls from the neighborhood waits for her, holding homemade signs displaying her name alongside words like hero and inspiration and La Martilla. Are you going to turn pro now? Are you going to be a world champion? One of the girls asks, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and admiration. No, Amelia answers honestly, a gentle smile on her face. This fight was about something specific, something important. But there are other ways to fight. There are other things worth fighting for. A week later, Amelia stands before the El Martillo Memorial Boxing Club. It's no longer quiet and empty. It is bustling with a new, vibrant energy. Local businesses, inspired by her incredible story, have donated brand new equipment, fresh paint, and operational funding. Inside, Manny leads a large group of neighborhood children, boys and girls, through basic boxing drills, emphasizing technique over power, patience over aggression, the very same lessons Amelia's grandfather taught her in secret so many years ago. We've got 20 new members just since the tournament, Manny reports, a look of deep contentment on his face. Mostly kids from right here in this neighborhood. 3 of the girls told me they want to be just like you when they grow up. Amelia watches the children practice, their faces alight with determination and focus. She sees echoes of her younger self in their eager, hopeful eyes. We need a scholarship program, she decides, the idea coming to her with absolute clarity. For the kids whose families can't afford the equipment or the tournament fees, no one should be kept out of the ring because they don't have money. That evening, Amelia visits Abuela Elena, whose color has already improved after just 2 weeks of the new treatment. They sit together on the small, rickety balcony of their apartment, watching the vibrant Los Angeles sun set. Your grandfather would be so proud, mija, Abuela Elena says, adjusting the tube of her new, more portable oxygen concentrator. Not of the fighting necessarily, though he would have admired your incredible skill, but of what you've done with it, of who you've become. I kept my promise, Abuela, Amelia reminds her gently. The tournament was the end, not the beginning. Of competing, perhaps, her grandmother agrees, taking her hand. But you've started something else, haven't you? Something that might be even more important. 3 months later, Amelia stands in the center of El Martillo's fully refurbished ring, surrounded by a new generation of aspiring fighters. She's not dressed in competition gear, but in simple training clothes, a whistle around her neck. Her grandfather's worn leather journal is open on a stool beside her as she demonstrates the fundamentals of the El Martillo technique. Power isn't just about strength, she explains, her voice echoing her grandfather's timeless words. It's about timing. It's about patience. It's about knowing when to reveal what you can do. The polished obsidian stone is still wrapped firmly around her wrist as she moves among her young students, correcting a stance here, adjusting a shoulder there, building upon the foundation her grandfather laid decades ago. She is building not just fighters, but survivors. She is teaching them to be people who understand that sometimes the greatest victory isn't in conquering others, but in refusing to be defined by their narrow expectations. Amelia gently adjusts a young girl's stance, guiding her through the precise footwork and pivot of the movement pattern that toppled Marcus Thorne in front of thousands of people. The child's eyes light up with a jolt of understanding when she finally executes it correctly. "Again," Amelia says with a warm, encouraging smile. "From the beginning, the foundation has to be perfect." Like her grandfather before her, she knows that some lessons take a lifetime to teach. Some fights, the truly important ones, never truly end. And some legacies, like polished stones passed carefully from one generation to the next, carry more than just luck. They carry possibility, waiting patiently for the right moment and the right person to finally be revealed. Amelia's fight reminds us that the quietest people often have the loudest stories. If her journey inspired you, please subscribe to Apex Narratives and share this video. Your support helps us tell more stories about the hidden heroes who walk among us every day. What was your favorite moment of triumph in Amelia's story? Let's discuss it in the comments below. Every time someone stands up, speaks out, or refuses to be erased, a new story is born. Here at Apex Narratives, we archive that courage. Subscribe now and help us keep these powerful moments alive, because the more we share them, the harder they are for the world to ignore.